you walk into a supermarket and you see racks of uh, Coca-Cola and Pepsi and all these sugary drinks. And although we're getting research that shows that these things affect us and affect us by creating diabetes. And we know that diabetes is sort of the number one killer because it causes the end artery disease, it causes heart disease, it causes stroke and everything else that it does.
Yeah.
And it's amazing that we are still selling that, and it's amazing that FDA is still, is letting that sort of be okay to be sold everywhere. And then from time to time, FDA has a little bit of issue with vitamin C that we give to patients. It's the funniest thing. But let me start by saying you touched on a really good subject, and I'm going to go back to my residency again and talk about this because when I was chief resident, I had a resident, an intern who was working with me, who one night that we were on call and we were in hospital grabbing food and he was sort of new, and I noticed that he's raw, and we talked about it, and he was a 30-something-year-old guy who at age 6, if I remember correctly, because he's probably going to watch this and he wants me to do justice. At age 6, I think he was diagnosed with the kidney disease, and the doctors told him that, or his parents, that he's not going to survive. And that's when his parents switched him to a raw diet. And later on, I think when he was 11 or something, he started doing yoga along with that. And this was a 30-year-old person who was supposed to not exist, who is now becoming a doctor himself. And you can imagine what he has done with his practice and what he brings to his patients because of the background he had. And that was one of the reasons that I invited the doctor who speaks about raw food to be part of our residency, because this was so intriguing to me. In our practice, what we do is we start with a food sensitivity test in certain cases and a digestive analysis to see, because we are what we eat.
Yes.
And not all of our bodies respond to the same thing exactly the same way. So, and I didn't know this, but in my food sensitivity, egg yolk and egg white was one of my sensitivities. And every day after working out, I had 4 eggs. So that was like 4 times a week. And I was always bloated and congested and you couldn't think straight. And I had burning sensation in my stomach. And I thought it's the coffee. I thought it's, what is it that I'm eating that's causing that? With my medical knowledge, it says gastroesophageal reflux is coffee, chocolate, sodas, tobacco, alcohol, but I don't have any of those, and the only thing I have is coffee. And why is it? And chocolate. And so why is it that I have this? And after doing my food sensitivity, I figured out that, this is where the problem is. And we took that out of my diet, and I feel fantastic. And from time to time, if it's a Sunday morning and my wife Sheba and my daughter are having breakfast, and I pick at eggs, I feel it. So it becomes, you sort of start becoming a little bit more in tune with your body. So food sensitivity has become one of the major tests that we do with our patients because it gives them a knowledge into their physiology. It tells you how inflammatory certain foods are in your body. And inflammation is basic inflammation, oxidation, all cellular aging and cellular death, and that's eventually our aging and having issues. We know a lot of the inflammatory processes like Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, rheumatoid arthritis, thyroiditis, Hashimoto's, colitis, Crohn's, IBS. All of these are inflammatory processes that, even if they're not caused by, let's say, that one egg,
right,
but the fact that you have that egg and that it creates inflammation in your body, you're adding fuel to fire. So you're not doing anything important for your body. The only change that we see is after we take our patients off of the food sensitivities that they have, figure out if they have leaky gut syndrome or not, and deal with that, and put them on a specific diet for them. And then you see how they come back and they have more energy and the brain is working better and the inflammation is less, the puff on their face goes away.
So let me ask you, for someone who's listening and maybe has heard the term leaky gut syndrome thrown around, what is that exactly?
How much time do we have? Leaky gut is very important, and I'm going to try to see if I can describe the physiology in a short period of time. Imagine our digestive system is a tube that's open to the outside world, and we sort of chew and sort of swallow food. The food goes down in our stomach, and acid and digestive enzymes are added to it. And then it goes in the small intestine, and the small intestine is where the sort of absorption of the food happens, right? Now, we have cells that are called brush border cells because they look like a brush. And then sort of these molecules, let's say protein and fat and carbohydrates, they sort of come along and then they get stuck. And then they are sort of swallowed inside this brush border cell. And then there's more reactions that happens there. And then the brush border cells puts it out to the area where it gets collected, and that is taken to the liver from there so that it becomes detoxified and becomes methylated and all the enzymatic reactions that liver has to do on it to make it available for our body. Now, if the brush border cells that are sort of connected to one another very tight so that nothing can go through them, have a little bit of a leakage, that means what we call their tight junctions are open from one another. What happens is the food that goes through, or the particles of protein and fat and everything else that go through, they basically go through without being completely digested. So they're presented to the body in a shape that the body does not recognize it. So the physiology of the body, immune system is one of the most important things. Immune system says, well, what is this? I'm not used to this. Let me mount a reaction to it, make sure if it's a bacteria or a virus or a foreign particle, I can engulf it and get rid of it. And that inflammation is the process of leaky gut syndrome. The reason we get leaky gut syndrome is by using antibiotics, using proton pump inhibitors, using anti-inflammatories, having yeast in our digestive system, having abnormal probiotics and prebiotics in our digestive system. And if at a certain point we got a gastroenteritis, a nasty infection in our digestive system, and we created inflammation in our digestive system, and that was never taken care of properly. So leaky gut, everyone thinks it's gut that has a hole in it and things sort of spill open. That's not the way it is. We should have called it something else. We called it leaky gut, but yeah, it's one of the reasons for inflammation in, I would say, 10 to 20% of our patients suffer from leaky gut. A lot of the times, taking care of that leaky gut is what makes the biggest impact on their body.
So if someone suspects they have leaky gut, is there a specific type of doctor like yourself where they should go and have something? I mean, I don't think that most, from what I hear, and this just shows that I am completely out of touch on this topic. But if someone, first of all, what might they be experiencing that would be a clue that, aha, this person should be tested for leaky gut? And is leaky gut something that is corrected by diet and vitamin? So again, I'm tossing all these questions. I'm so curious.
The reason I laughed was because leaky gut should go to gastroenterologists, and gastroenterologists don't believe in leaky gut.
Yeah.
Which is the funniest thing, because we deal with it, and our patients sort of seek leaky gut treatment with us, and they say, well, why doesn't my gastroenterologist know about this? And the answer is, when there is not a specific medication, don't expect your doctor to know about it, because as doctors, we get paid by creating a assessment and plan, and the assessment can be sinusitis and the plan is an antibiotic. So insurance company pays by that, and not necessarily by saying, oh, you have sinusitis, take some garlic and wash with nasal saline,